We make dozens of complex decisions every single day. And when faced with all those choices, our natural, stress-inducing instinct is to try and predict the absolute perfect outcome. We want to be right. But Carl Jacobi, a 19th century German mathematician, had a different approach to solving hard problems. His famous rule was, invert, always invert. Applied to our daily lives, Jacobi's rule shifts the entire goalpost. Instead of constantly asking, how can I be right? A far more effective strategy is to ask, how can I be wrong less? In tennis, an unforced error happens when you lose a point not because your opponent hit an impossible shot, but because you flubbed an easy swing. You beat yourself. We face the same problem internally. Our brains evolved to prioritize quick, survival-based shortcuts on the savannah, but those same instincts often fail us when navigating modern, abstract complexity. These outdated default settings generate constant cognitive unforced errors, mistakes made not because the world is too hard, but because our built-in processing is misaligned with the task. To stop beating ourselves, we need a proactive defense system. By borrowing specific mental models from disciplines like physics, statistics, and economics, we can bypass our brain's worst instincts and navigate uncertainty with a lot more precision. The first major trap we fall into is accepting existing boundaries as concrete facts. We assume conventional wisdom is true without ever actually testing it. To break out of that, we use a mental model called first principles. This means deliberately starting from scratch. You throw out the conventional wisdom and boil a problem down until you are left with only the fundamental, self-evident truths. When an explosion crippled Apollo 13, NASA couldn't rely on standard procedures to keep astronauts breathing. Engineers dumped spare parts on a table to figure out how to fit a square canister into a round hole using only raw materials. Decades later, Elon Musk applied this exact same framework to the automotive industry. Everyone told him that electric vehicles were impossible to scale because battery packs historically cost a massive $600 per kilowatt-hour. Musk ignored the historical market price. He looked at the material constituents of a battery, cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and calculated what those raw elements actually cost on the London Metal Exchange. It came out to about $80 per kilowatt-hour. By stripping away the layers of industry assumptions and arguing strictly from the atomic ingredients, he found a way to build a much cheaper battery. First principles allows you to construct entirely new solutions because you aren't bound by someone else's old recipe. We also have a deeply illogical tendency to prefer complicated explanations over simple ones. This is the conjunction fallacy. Looking at this diagram, it's mathematically impossible for a specific, overlapping subset of people to be larger than the broader category it belongs to. Yet our brains routinely assume the highly specific scenario is more likely. This leads to overfitting. Instead of identifying the broad trend in this scatterplot, we draw a wildly complex line to hit every point. To fix this, apply Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually correct. Shave off complexities and use the straight line. Once you've shaved down your assumptions, you need to test them in the real world as fast as possible. That is your minimum viable product, or MVP. It is the absolute most basic version of your idea, put into practice immediately to see if it actually works. When you combine Occam's razor with an MVP, you quickly de-risk your decisions. You find out what works before you waste months of time and energy over-engineering a highly specific, totally false reality. Even if you keep things simple, your baseline frame of reference is constantly under attack. External forces are highly motivated to hijack how you perceive information. Consider the concept of framing. Look at these two headlines covering the exact same event. One implies a tragic accident injuring an officer, the other implies reckless police aggression against a homeowner. The identical facts generate completely different stories based on the frame. We're also incredibly vulnerable to anchoring. When a magazine offers a web subscription for $59, a print version for $125, and a combined print and web version for that same $125, almost no one buys the print-only option. It's a decoy. It exists solely to anchor your perception of value, making the bundle feel like an irresistible steal. This distortion gets dangerous when we scale it up. This chart compares public perception of crime to the actual violent victimization rate. Heavy media coverage creates availability bias. We see so much violence on the news that people believe crime is soaring, even as actual data proves it is steadily plummeting. Online search algorithms weaponize this bias for profit. They filter out opposing viewpoints and trap us in isolated digital bubbles. 3 different people searching for the exact same political topic at the exact same time will receive entirely different links, highly customized to feed them only what they already believe. To neutralize this, you have to run a mental model called the third story. In any conflict or issue, there is your side, their side, and the third story, the cold, factual account an impartial observer would write. Finding objective truth requires accepting that your perspective is flawed. You have to aggressively question your own frame of reference and seek out the data you are being shielded from. Deploying these mental models won't magically eliminate every mistake from your life. Uncertainty guarantees you will still fail, but a robust toolbox changes how your brain processes that failure. The goal is to reach a state that analyst Nassim Nicholas Taleb calls being anti-fragile. Fragile things break under stress. Resilient things resist stress and stay the same. But anti-fragile things actually benefit from shocks. Exposing your decisions to stressors and real-world failures makes your problem-solving stronger over time. Learning these supermodels is like Bruce Banner's transformation. It alters the fundamental structure of your perspective. But it isn't an instant fix. You must practice daily until identifying these patterns becomes an automated response, replacing slow deliberation with immediate mental reflex. The world isn't going to get any less complicated. So the next time you are faced with a high-stakes, stressful choice, stop obsessing over how to be right. Just ask yourself, what mental model can I use to be wrong less?